Hello to the Dream Team and a very warm welcome to you all to the Good, the Bad and the Rugby. We are on tour this week in the very salubrious surroundings of Pennyhill Park, crushed velvet and cigars at the ready in front of this here fireplace. It's a momentous weekend in the game, of course. It's been a tough one for those England fans who have followed the fortunes of the girls all the way through the tournament in Aotearoa. But we have to start by saying well done to the Black Ferns. What an extraordinary turnaround it was. What an extraordinary Rugby World Cup final it has been. Heartbreak, as we said, for our vice-captain and our very golden girl, Emily Scarrett. We are gutted for those in white, but we have to doff our cap to the Black Ferns who retain their title. Elma and Mo are going to be talking about all things Women's Rugby World Cup a little bit later on in the show and rounding up an extraordinary tournament down in Aotearoa. But firstly, and luckily for all England fans, it wasn't a double loss because the boys dusted off the Argentina defeat and picked themselves up for their encounter with Japan at Twickenham at the weekend. And we are very excited to have a first official welcome to our new member of the tribe, Vice-Captain Jack Nowell. How are you first and foremost? Good to have you with us.
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, not too bad.
Lots to talk about, obviously, but can we just touch on the dog first of all?
Yeah,
You've had a hell of a, and this is one of the things actually interesting.
That wasn't the reason I wasn't playing.
No. Well, we'll come on to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because you think about elite sports people and the dedication and all that goes into it, and that you forget about the fact that life goes on around. What's happened?
Yeah. So I had a phone call from my partner on Friday. Very upset down the phone.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of things going through my mind. She's heavily pregnant at the moment. 2 other little kids as well at home by herself. But yeah, the dog had his eye taken out on Friday, which was a bit unfortunate. So yeah, obviously I was gutted of it, but at the same time, a little bit relieved that the kids are all right. But then, yeah, I thought about the dog and yeah, it was a tough day for her.
You do forget, or one does forget, just how much kind of there is outside of an elite environment like this. Is your missus sympathetic at this point? Because you've been doing this for 10 years now, 8 years.
Yeah.
Is she still great? Go and have fun and enjoy your cigars and your brandy and your crushed velvet and the adoration of the nation? Or is she...
I'm very picky with what I say to her.
Right. Okay. This one.
Obviously, recovery is big here.
Yes,
so
I
must
imagine.
go down and use the sauna and the ice bath.
Yeah.
And recover properly. Enabled me to train to my max the next day. But yeah, when I say spa days and things like that, obviously we've been in camp now 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've not been home. So yeah, her juggling 2 dogs, 2 kids, and a house by herself. Yeah, it's tough.
Your to-do list for whenever it's going to be 5 years when you retire, I mean, that's a proper spreadsheet right there. How are you? Obviously, bad week for the dog. Not a great week for you. What happened?
No, I took a little bit of a knock against Argentina. It was nothing too serious. Bruised ribs, sore abs. But it was one of those ones where, you know, to take a couple more days could potentially saved a long-term injury. So, like I've said before, I'm getting a bit older now and a bit more sensible. And I think the physios and the docs are a bit more stern with me in terms of saying what I can and can't do nowadays. So, yeah, it was one of those things. Obviously, I was gutted to miss the game against Japan, but you know, fair play to the boys to pick up.
When are you told you're not playing?
I tried to grit my teeth all week. Monday, Tuesday, I was okay. Wednesday probably made it a little bit worse, but was still pretty confident. And then yeah, Friday was one of those things I kind of had to make a decision with the medical staff. And there's a lot of things going through your mind at that stage. You don't want to put the team in jeopardy. You don't want to go out on the field for 30 seconds and have to come straight back off. So yeah, it was a bit of a team first moment for me, and yeah, kind of had to make a sensible decision with the physios.
And so Joe will know, because I'm always really interested. These are the bits. I mean, the news breaks on Saturday. Jack Nowell out, Joe Thock and a singer in, and everyone just gets on with it. But there's obviously a lot that goes on backstage. So Joe gets told on Friday afternoon, actually, we're going with you.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it ours for now. Do you then chat with him about? I mean, how much? He's obviously done a lot of work in the week, but how does he then get himself ready with 24 hours notice as opposed to?
I think that's why you always have your travelling reserves. So every team does it. They rarely get used because stuff like that doesn't normally happen unless there's illnesses and things like that. But with the 25th men always stay with the team during the week. So Joe would have done everything that I would have done this week. But like you said, it's just that mental switch to the night before the game thinking I'm not playing to, yeah, I probably am playing now. But yeah, I think Eddie had a little chat with him. I spoke to him in the morning and stuff. But because you do all your training and stuff, you're kind of ready for it anyway.
Yeah.
And Big Joe's so laid back that he probably would have taken it in his stride anyway.
Probably better with 24 hours notice than the week to worry about it. Can I ask you a really personal question? Do you then lose your match fee?
I don't actually know. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So that you never even think about that?
No, that's not.
I'm working with Hask. That would be the first thing that he'd like to sellotape himself up and get on with it again. But like, it's really interesting because you often don't realise the sort of machinations of what happens backstage, kind of relative to what everyone just sits down and watches on the telly.
Yeah, I think obviously the money is obviously.
It's all pride, king and country, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously the money's there, and it's also obviously a massive positive. But for me, bigger picture,
it's not about that.
No, against the Argentina game, and then to then go and play against Japan. Obviously, us as a team wanted to make up a few things, and me personally as well. And then, if I lasted 2 minutes on the field, I was doing myself no favours and doing the team no favours. And obviously, like we mentioned, we've got the Six Nations after this. We've got, World Cup and stuff. One, I didn't want a long-term injury, which is, probably the main thing that was in my mind. But two, you don't want to, put the team in jeopardy and then Eddie to find out that you were maybe hiding something. So,
are you quite a frustrating viewer? Do you watch at Twickenham, or do you stay here?
I watched it at Twickenham. Yeah.
Do you find that quite itchy?
No, not too. No.
Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Quite laid back.
The boys were good though, so it makes it a lot easier.
I was going to say, what did you make of the game, and what was different against Japan to Argentina?
I think we got a few things right in the week. Obviously from the Argentina game, discipline was our main thing that we came out of talking about. We only gave away 10 penalties, but they're penalties that they either kicked or got some serious field positioning. And they were silly penalties from us. There's stuff we should never have done. Offsides, not rolling away, all rugby stuff. But, they are stupid penalties for us to be giving away.
And does that make for quite a bloody review session?
Yeah, I think from the coach's point of view, it was very much us as leaders took that as a thing of saying, right, we need to probably show these clips and have a word with each other and get that out in the open that this isn't good enough. Because every single time we've come together as England, if you think Scotland Six Nations last year, exactly the same thing happened. Discipline, penalties, they won the game. Australia, first test, discipline, they won the game. So we're like, and it happened again now. So we're like, going forward, we can't be doing that in the Six Nations. We certainly can't be doing that in the World Cup. So we as players kind of came together and spoke about that, and it was difficult, but boys held their hands up, they earned it, and we got on with it, and obviously made a lot of difference this weekend.
It did, a huge difference. Can I ask you about a couple of individuals? So Freddie Stewart, first of all,
awesome, isn't he?
He's building up quite a sort of champagne bank at the moment. Apparently, he doesn't drink any of it. He doesn't share that around on the team bus on the way back to the hotel.
It's funny that I've not actually seen it. Yeah,
right. So I think it obviously.
I'll have a little word with him actually.
Yeah, do. That. Just talk us through.
I wonder where he's putting it actually.
Yeah, well, it's not being drunk apparently. It's either going to the old man or it's sort of being put into a.
I'll have a word and find out for you.
Tash apart, how impressed are you as a sort of senior citizen now with where he is at in his game?
Yeah, he's awesome, and I think he's young, but you wouldn't think he's young in a weird way. I think from even when he first joined up the team, I wasn't here. But even from that, he was pretty awesome. He's kind of only got better from playing each game. He's a young boy, but he's pretty senior in the way he acts. Certainly the way he's on the field, and obviously he backs himself up with his skill and stuff. He's unbelievable in the air, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone like that. Helps that he's 7 foot as well. But no, he's good, and the good thing is he's a good bloke as well.
Yeah.
Off the field, he's a good lad. I've liked to spend time with him. In the bar after the game a few times as well. But no,
he's got a bit of a student
boy.
about him.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Oh, he has. Yeah.
Living life.
Yeah. But no, he's a good lad, and I think when he's performing like that and playing like that for the team, especially as a winger, with him beside you, and he's in the backfield is a pretty nice thing to feel.
And from 15 to 1. So the question I want to ask you is, you are vice captain and Ellis is vice captain. I'm not sure you can both be. So you've obviously got captain, vice captain, vice captain. Which of the two would sit above the other?
I would say Genge would sit above me.
Oh, come on.
Well, just because in terms of he's in the thick of it,
right?
In the game.
Yeah.
I think it'd be easier for him to make a few more decisions. He's able to speak to the ref a lot more.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends what mood he's in.
Yeah.
But no, I think Genji's been class. Obviously Owen is captain, but I think the work we do in the week is all pretty similar in terms of how we get the team in a good spot. And And then, hopefully we do complement each other when we're on the field as well.
And what does it mean to you to kind of be recognised in that way? Is it a position you ever thought you'd end up in?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. But I think it's fantastic. And I think it says a lot about this squad that, Ellis was a bad boy and his journey is extraordinary. And you have sort of not necessarily gone from bad boy, but you've gone from proper character into kind of an ownership of the team. And I just wonder, why you think that's happened, how much you're enjoying it, and sort of why and what you're giving the team.
I'm loving it, to be honest. I think, like you said, I've never thought about being a captain ever in my life. I think I've spent the last 5 years at the club telling Rob that I don't want to be in the leadership group. But
and what's his reaction to that? As a highly paid, highly respected poster boy of the club.
Fair enough, Jack. You do what you need to do. But I think the good thing, like I said, I didn't come into camp like asking to be a vice captain, asking to have more of a leadership role in the team with Eddie. It was kind of something that was given to me because I feel like I get, and same with Genge as well, but I feel me, Owen and Genge are very different people. And Courtney when he's in, obviously. But I feel like I get a good gist of how the team's feeling, what the boys need.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, with Courtney, I was in the Six Nations last year. Obviously, it was me and Genge as well. So, I kind of, the beauty of it with me is I like to say it how it is. Obviously, if the boys are feeling tired or we need more from the boys and the boys are being lazy, I'm not afraid to tell Eddie what we need as a team.
Are you sort of, if Owen's like head boy, are you like sort of form captain? You're sort of man of the people type thing? And people will whisper in your ear and say, we need a bit more of this and a bit of that. And it's up to you to be pushed to the front of the class to deal with it.
No, I think a little bit maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think I quite like, I keep it quite simple. Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it's a game of rugby, and what you need in a week, sometimes the coach doesn't quite understand, or whether you've done too much, whether you've done too little. So it's quite nice as a player to be able to do that. I quite like the feeling of being able to be one of the guys that the lads can speak to, like you said there. But in terms of us three in our leadership roles, I think obviously we're very different. Faz, in terms of the standards he drives on and off the field, is up there. You're not going to cross Faz too much, but like me, I'm more of a chill, sit back guy. Cup of tea.
Chill back entertainer.
Yeah, a little bit maybe. Cup of tea in the room and stuff like that. But I think the way we complement each other is good, and hopefully we're doing some good stuff with the team.
And talk us through Ellis and his form. Does he talk about the try? Does he sort of?
Doesn't.
He just gets on with it.
He just gets on with it.
He is no nonsense.
Three guys to stop him, didn't it?
Absolutely ridiculous.
He's mental, isn't he?
Talk us through his form and what it's been like, I suppose, sort of riding alongside him over the last few years, because we've loved it, and obviously incredibly excited to have you as part of the pod, but we've loved being on the journey with him from this kind of slightly loose cannon into a guy that is just owning the moment right now. And I just wondered, as someone who plays alongside him, whether you've noticed that, enjoyed that?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think, again, in terms of that leadership sort of thing, he's one of those guys that, just says it. He knows what's good for the team and what's best for the team as well. And, Genji's not afraid to say what he's feeling, which is certainly what we need at the moment. And I think, when you add to what he's doing on the field as well as what he's doing off the field, he is brilliant. And I think I had a little chat with him after the Bristol game when we had a close game down there, and he turned around to me and looked at me and went, "Are we crap? Like, what's just happened there?" But he's still got that character, and he's still got that that edge to him as well, and he certainly brought that into being in camp as well.
Okay, I'm going to read you a line. This was from The Guardian, which I just thought was fantastic. So
this is from Genge?
No, this is about him,
okay.
But it sort of sums up his performance. Genge had forced Gu into giving away penalties at each of the first three scrums, and when the fourth was a reset, 28 minutes into the game, Genge actually crossed over to Gu and started giving him technical advice on his binding, complete with elaborate hand gestures so both front rows would be more stable when they engaged. It was like watching Godzilla break off from laying waste to a tower block so he could give the residents tips on the finer points of dealing with monsters. I mean, he has become quite a sort of, I don't know whether he'd agree with that or not, but he has become quite a sort of figurehead, really. I mean, does he have quite a presence within the team room?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of those players that doesn't speak very often, but when he does speak, you can see boys listening and proper cluing into what he's got to say. And like I said, he says it as how it is. He's pretty straight talking. And then when you show little bits of character like that as well, is adds the comedy value to it as well.
He is fantastic right now. Talk us through this week then. So obviously Sunday, down day?
Yep. Sunday down day.
What does that involve?
Spa,
Massage, eyebrows threaded.
Yeah.
Deep tissue.
Cigars, velvet jackets that you mentioned.
We'll bleep all that out in case your missus is listening.
No, she won't mind. So our families get to come in post game, which is quite nice. They watch the game and then we have Sunday off. So obviously the local lads can shoot off back home and chill there and see their families. Or for us boys that are in Exeter, our families can come up, stay.
Do your kids come up as well, or does your missus take the chance to screech the tyres and get out of Exeter?
No, yeah, they all come up. So they came up after the Argentina game with me. Yeah, took the girls for a swim in the pool.
Very nice.
Bit of a trampoline land or soft play, whatever it is, down in Camberley, down the road there. So you can imagine how my post-game recovery was going.
Yeah, I can tell.
But no, it's quite nice to see them and spend a day with them. And then, Monday morning, we're straight back into it.
And the alarm goes when on a Monday morning?
For me, about 7 o'clock.
Okay. And do you think All Black week, or do you just think another week, off we go? Is there a bite to this week?
Yeah, I think it's definitely All Black week. I think it's a massive game. And I think there's a lot of outside noise about it as well. You start seeing family, friends, a lot more people wanting tickets. And, we might come to that game. So there's a bit of that, but at the same time, you've got to have a bit of edge this week because it is such a massive game. And I'm sure we'll be saying the right stuff this week, but a lot of our stuff is about making sure we're attacking and we're going out there and not just soaking.
I just saw Eddie in the gents before you came and we were chatting at the urinals and he said, best week of the year, mate, or something like that. Do you get a sense from him that he's been waiting for this one for quite some time?
I think you can tell he's excited for every single game that we play against. I know it's a bit cliche, but every single Monday morning meeting, it's like you're a little bit sore from the game before, you're a bit fatigued, and then Eddie will have his speech and he'll talk about the week and it's a bit like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a good one. I think, obviously, Argentina was our first game, so that was easy. Suffering a loss to them, and then the Japan week was again easy for us to pick up because we wanted to make the mistakes, make better from the mistakes that we did. But then obviously, like you said, New Zealand game, they're still one the top team in the world. So yeah, it's a big one. There's a bit of edge to it this week. So one that we've got to be excited for.
There's obviously going to be a lot of chat about 2019, and I've watched England for a depressingly long time. Let's say 30-something years. I don't think it was. Don't laugh. Still wear moisturising twice daily. But I think that is at the top of the tree. What do you remember from that week? I mean, obviously frustrating for you personally, but as just as a story, it was
unbelievable. Yeah.
It was mad.
I think obviously the hacker was the big one. We did the V. But when you're doing stuff like that, you've got to back it up on performance. And I think it was one of those games where, everything went right for us. The week went right. We got a good balance. Again, New Zealand semi-final, we had to get up for it, which is not hard to do when you've got that. But yeah, a lot of things went right for us in the game, and Underhill was on fire, Curry was on fire. To be fair, all the boys are on fire. Do you know what I mean? But it's remembering that, but knowing at the same time that that's not going to win us the game this weekend.
Do you ever get? I know for sure, but do you ever get, like, people talk about a feeling? Do you ever get that on some weeks where you just think this is? Or do you sometimes feel it and it comes through? Or do you sometimes feel it and it doesn't? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think...
Is there ever that sort of extra little dimension to it?
I think everyone's different, innit? You could have, 5 of the boys thinking this is it, and you could have 10 of the boys thinking, we'll see how it goes. A lot of our chat during the week is to try and get all those boys on the same page, but at the end of the day, you're not going to do that with everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's very much depending on what you can do to influence people's and how they feel is the first 10 minutes of the game. Your first action, if you can make that a big one, big tackle, big carry, big kick chase or anything like that, you can drag your teammates along with you.
Yeah.
And then that gets them up for it, opposed to getting so up for it before the game. Yeah. And I think, we did that last time. You
have piled into me before for asking too many rugby questions, but
I'm getting better.
Yeah, well, you are. I mean, you're on media duty,
and
you're in England
stash.
You've got to behave this week as well because we're in your house.
That's true. I actually watched the game yesterday as well.
Well, I was going to say, have you watched much of the All Blacks this year?
Yeah, I watched them yesterday.
And what do you think? That's not this year. That's in the last 24 hours.
I have watched them a bit this year. I think.
What do you make of? Because I want to ask you, what do you make of New Zealand? Then what do you just make of the whole picture right now? But New Zealand first of all.
I think New Zealand used to be the team that no one could beat.
Yep.
Didn't they? They used to be. It'd be a shock. I'm not saying it's not a shock now, but it'd be a shock if New Zealand lost.
Did you message Hoggy?
I haven't messaged him yet. No, I kind of leave him after a game. I'll probably give him a text tonight. But now I think I think every team have caught up a little bit as well. I think now it used to be New Zealand and everyone underneath, whereas now it's kind of one big pool where everyone could be everyone.
Yeah.
We saw that with Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, all in the summer. Argentina, they're all beating each other.
And why is that, in your view? Or do you simply just can't
honestly
don't
know.
Don't know.
I don't know whether other teams have got better, whether New Zealand have dropped off a bit, which they haven't from watching them the way they play. But yeah, I think certainly other teams have got better, and I think from playing each other a lot makes you better as well. Getting yourself in that environment more gets you used to it. But yeah, no, it's a tough one to actually probably put your finger on it. But like I said, everyone is in one big circle at the moment where everyone could beat everyone. So I think we as a team are trying to find the edge to try and get us ahead of them.
Do you feel so? We're going to come on to that. I'm going to talk to Alex Lowe of the Times in a minute or two. But you're absolute. Everybody is beating everybody right now, and I just wonder from a player's perspective, like whether you can put your finger on why against Argentina. Presumably there wasn't too much different in the build-up to Argentina to Japan, and yet against Argentina it was really frustrating on the field, and against Japan it was really kind of doing what you wanted to do. And I just wonder whether that is mindset, whether it's what you eat for breakfast, whether it's just the state of the game right now.
Yeah.
It's referees' interpretation.
Referee's obviously a big one. Anything referee can give a red card, yellow card for absolutely anything or nothing nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's, you've got to kind of put that into it as well. The weather. Do you mean the weather plays a big part on it? Certainly. Obviously, it fit the way that we wanted to play against Japan in terms of, some of our ball players that we've got are unbelievable when they got the ball in hand and stuff like that. And weather does change that a little bit, but that's what I mean. That's where us as a team need to change the way we want to play.
Yeah.
So you got the ref, you got the weather, but yeah, in terms of how we build up for the game, normally they are, pretty identical. But like you said, it's that individual side to try and make sure that you're at your best and you want to be at your best for that game.
Okay. Do you listen to any of the media?
No,
none at all.
Not when I'm in here.
Okay, because there seems to be, and I'm interested in your view in this, because it seems to be with this England team at the moment that they're finding it quite hard to get the love from the media.
I don't know. Yeah, do the media want us to win?
I don't know.
I really don't know. And I think the frustrating thing from us players is when you see other nations and other countries like getting backed. I'm not saying we're not getting backed. I'm not too sure. Like I said, I don't really read it too much, but you do. I find that we get more negative than we do positive. And don't get me wrong, we know that we lost against Argentina. We know that our performance wasn't there. We kind of don't need to be told that.
Right.
We not saying that everything could be positive at the same time, but at the same time, for me, it's easier just not to read it and get on with what I know I need to do and what we need to do as a team, opposed to listening to everything else outside.
Hask went on a rant last week, actually, just about. Actually, I don't think it was on the show. I think it was an event we did. And he's just like, everyone's just saying Eddie out. Well, what is the solution? Don't just get rid because then there's a vacuum. Propose something. And if that's a viable alternative, then let's discuss it. But if you're just saying Eddie out, that's just nonsensical. What is the player's view to the sort of Eddie out?
I don't think we've really heard or listened to any.
So the laugh
Eddie
kind of says it all.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely...
It's a
ridiculous thing to even say, to be honest. But like you said, what do people expect? We're, not even a year out from the World Cup now, and they're calling for Eddie to be booted or for whoever to be booted out of the team. It's a bit silly, isn't it?
I think so. And I think...
But at the same time, when we're beating New Zealand, like you said, we're getting to a World Cup final, we're, playing some good games in Six Nations and stuff, but... And then it's a different story, isn't it? But you pick up a couple of losses or one loss in this, like Australia, like some of the stuff we did out there was unbelievable, in terms of how we felt as a team and where we are with Eddie and how much of a big group we feel at the moment. I think, you kind of forget about the positive sides, and Eddie's always said we're on this journey and we know we've got a long way to go before we get to the World Cup, but we've got these steps in place to be able to get us there.
Interesting. So just to move it on a little bit, I mean, you've obviously, I'm interested in your view on the media. You obviously have to do days like this. Do you just...
I don't mind it if you guys.
Well, that's kind. When you get put up in front, do you feel, I've got to get this done? Or do you feel, let's have a bit of fun with it, let's see where we can go with it? Are there bits of it you enjoy, or is it a necessary evil? Because I'm interested in the bond between team, fan and media at the moment.
I would say that everyone wants characters in rugby.
Yep.
And I would love for boys to be themselves.
Yeah.
and say what they want to say. But I know boys are very careful in terms of how they answer stuff and what they want to say, because they don't want to come across wrong. They don't want to be turned into a wrong thing to say. So it's a tricky one. It's a tough one. But that comes back to the media side of it. Of do we want to be backed, or would we rather just be
get on with it?
Yeah, frowned upon or said stuff.
What would you do? I'm not sure you would ever discuss it. But what would you do if you could differently?
What do you mean? If you could,
just in terms, because I suppose the other thing that fell out of the Argentina game is that it was a really tough afternoon between fan and fan and team type thing.
But then we kind of feel like as a team that we didn't do enough on the field, or we didn't do what we wanted to do to bring the crowd with us, the fans with us. And speaking with the boys, obviously the Japanese game, it felt a lot different. The crowd were behind us. But then again, that's what we do. That's what we can do on the field. You know, we can do something, make a break, make a big tackle to bring the crowd with us, to make them feel part of it. Then, you know, everyone's going to enjoy it. We're going to enjoy it because we're on the field, and fans are going to enjoy it because they're watching it, because they're watching something special that's happening.
Hask has offered his services as a kind of Michael Buffer, ladies and gentlemen, like hype man.
I do think we need to get the game there, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I think when we were out in Australia for the summer, obviously the 3 tests that they brought, the NRL games they play out there, State of Origin, like it's a massive show.
Yeah.
Like posts are being lit up in team colours. You know, there's a rock band on the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
There's like big show, like it's like a concert almost.
You won't have seen it, but France, well, obviously Grand Slam game,
Grand Slam
was unbelievable in terms of lights, pyrotechnics, hype on the mic.
But then I remember that atmosphere of that game being like you said, being on the field, and it was actually Freddie that was beside me, and we were talking to each other, and I couldn't hear him. Like, it was so loud. It was unbelievable, like the atmosphere there. But that's kind of what it felt like. Lights off, fireworks, and all of this. And I think that's an exciting experience for me.
Okay.
Because you've got the game, and then you've got the atmosphere.
So room for improvement, but not with Hask as the conduit.
Definitely not with Hask.
Okay, cool. Do you watch any other sports? Do you watch UFC or?
I dip in and out. Formula One.
Formula One. Because I was going to say, what do you watch where you think that's electric?
I like the characters in UFC.
Yeah.
They're quite cool, like in terms of how they are out of the ring and stuff. Formula One, the show, and that, obviously the money in it is massive, but the show that they've got, the viewings they've got is obviously pretty cool as well. But yeah, anything where there's a bit of an atmosphere, like a bit of a like concert vibe, where it's like you're not only just going to watch the game, but like you stay after to watch the game. The build up, you're there 3 hours before the game, because you know it's like a build up to the actual main event that's happening.
Okay, we'll take your notes and put them into the dossier.
We can make it, yeah. Could do something.
We could. The room is there to be moved into. Just before we finish, can we talk about arguably the standout performance of November so far, which is the one and only Mike Tyndall?
Do you know
Have you watched any?
I have watched it, and I certainly watched it when he was wearing his budgies.
Right. You're a big budgie ambassador.
I love budgies.
What did you think of him in his budgies?
Good.
Yeah.
I think everyone who wears budgies is good.
Highs and lows.
No,
yeah, okay. There's a spectrum.
Confidence, you've got to be in them.
What have you made of Tins, first of all?
I think it's been brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't normally watch I'm Celebrity. I actually watched it when Hask was in. I'll tell him I didn't watch it, but I did watch it.
We'll redact.
It's a bit different when you know someone in there, because it's quite
it adds a bit. It's really odd.
Yeah.
Like, it's been very odd for us watching him in there, knowing him as well as we do, and just sort of seeing the motions that. I mean, I think this week he's struggling a little bit. He's getting quite bored with it all because it's become the Matt Hancock show.
Yeah.
But what I do like is that for sort of the pale male stale brigade, middle-aged blokes, he's actually holding the end up all right.
Yeah, and I think the problem with those shows sometimes is, we all know Tins, like, if you know him personally as well, you know he's a top bloke, but sometimes it can show certain things. You might come across different to how we know him and things like that. But for watching him, it's exactly how he is. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can tell that everybody in the jungle loves him as well. And
did you see the rap?
Yes, I did.
So we saw the rap. He fired out both raps and heavy.
He nailed
breathing.
it as well.
He did. But he did both on the first show, and those are pretty much his 3 party pieces. So looking to see where he can take it. Yeah, it's a little bit. He may have to rap again in week 2 to kind of reinvigorate the vote. Have you voted? Will you vote for him?
No, I probably won't vote. I ain't going to lie.
Other things to do.
Yeah.
Keep going on Tins. So very nice to see you. good luck this weekend. It's obviously a hell of a week. What time is it? 5? It's 5. It's late kickoff,
Later
isn't it?
kickoff this week, yeah.
I mean, fingers crossed for selection, obviously, but just give us a little sense of this week in the calendar, what it means, the buzz, the electricity, the nerves. Does this feel a special one?
It does feel special, yeah. I think, again, cliche, every game feels special. New Zealand is a special one, and because it's our game this weekend, I think the big thing for us as a team, we don't want to let the occasion get the better of us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't want to sit back and just wait and see what happens. I think, obviously, we've had a bit of a chat with Eddie this morning. We want to build that excitement during the week. And we want to, release ourselves a little bit out there. That we're not rabbits in the headlights, so to say. We want to, put our game on them and chuck everything at them.
Keep well.
Thank you.
Go get them.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the pod.
Cheers,
Cap
bro.
on the way. Good on you,
Thank you.
Nosy.
Cheers
Lovely
for
to
having
see you. Good luck to Jack. What a game it's going to be this Saturday. And let's just quickly, on that note, whip you through all of the Autumn Nations series for this weekend, live and exclusive on Amazon Prime Video, of course. I don't want to blow my own trumpet. We'll come on to this in a moment. But one of us on the pod called Italy to beat Australia by 1. Apparently lightning does strike every so often. This weekend, we will come on to our predictions a bit later via socials, all live on Amazon Prime Video. You can get stuck into Wales against Georgia from 1 o'clock. Can Italy do it again against the Box at the same time? That's also at 1 o'clock. 3:15 at Scotland against Argentina, which will be fascinating. The big game at 5:30 from Twickenham. England against the All Blacks for the first time since 2019. 8 o'clock, it's Ireland against Australia, the world number 1, looking to round out a fantastic year. And on Sunday, France will take on Japan from 1 o'clock. All 6 games and the rest of this month's Autumn Nations Series games live only on Amazon Prime Video. Don't miss it. Let's move from the players to the press pack and say a very warm welcome to the rugby correspondent for the Times, Mr. Alex Lowe. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Alex. Yeah, good.
Nice to have you down here at Pennyhill.
Yeah, nice.
And thank you for coming to have a chat with us, because we've been talking a bit recently on our show just about, I suppose, the relationship at the moment between the team, the fans, and the media. I suppose before we come on to, will you actually give us your snapshot to that first of all? Where is the relationship and the dial at the moment between Team England and the press pack?
Well, I think from my perspective, I'm finding the players much more willing to give a bit and engage, and it's hard in weeks when they haven't won or when the pressure's on. But I went down to Bristol a couple of weeks ago and spent the morning with Ellis Genge. Just a great opportunity.
That was a brilliant article.
That was, oh, thank you.
It was a really good story.
But it was a great morning because I got the chance to just have a coffee with him and go and see where he grew up, and it just, I learned more about him as a person. We did a proper sit down interview, but I spent 2 or 3 hours with him. I'm just here, just had a chat with Manu Tuolangi on, we're 10 years on from the big game in 2012 when he was extraordinary. We've obviously got the World Cup semi-final try that he scored. So there's a lot of connection between him and New Zealand, and he's been here with his family over the weekend, just talking about going on the soft play with his kids. And I think I've noticed a definite shift in the last couple of years of the players like being a bit more understanding of the need to tell their stories. And it's what I know you guys have talked about it a lot, and it's all we would like to do really, because ultimately, without being too grand about it, we want to tell their stories so that our readers and listeners of the podcast can idolise them and can understand who they are, so that when they come to Twickenham or they turn on the television, they're invested in those players. I've been to Olympic Games before, and I see it a lot covering Olympic sports, because they're out of the spotlight for 3 years, a lot of them, and then they get their window. And the reason why we tune in to watch sports that we don't normally watch is because we've become invested in those athletes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think rugby's understanding that, and I think the players are beginning to deliver. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Not every player is comfortable doing that or wants to do that, and that's cool. That's fine. But those who are, and those who are prepared to tell their stories, it's our responsibility to give them a trusted platform so that they can feel comfortable opening up and they can feel comfortable talking. And then even if they go, actually, do you know what, I'd rather not go there yet or something, you go, fine, that's it's their story. And I want to be able to convey their tale to the readers and the fans, to help them understand who that player is, and so they're invested in them.
Yeah. The thing I wanted to ask you is that there are sort of two sides to your role. I'm not talking about you specifically, but to the media. There's the characterization, let's build them up, and then there's reporting on what we see. And one of the things that it felt like off the back of that Argentina game, in an international rugby landscape at the moment where everybody is beating everybody, is that the press pack in the UK, in England in particular, are very quick to turn. And I'm going to say on Eddie Jones, when things don't go right. Is that a fair assumption? The headlines scream, England embarrassed by Argentina, England flop to Argentina. And actually, if you look at the history, Argentina have gone to New Zealand and beaten New Zealand. They are a side that is massively now sort of regulated at the top of the table as opposed to flaring up and down. And therefore, it's not necessarily that big a shock that Argentina win by a point in the wet at Twickenham. And yet it felt like the knives came straight out for Eddie. Is that a thing, or is that just sensitivities?
So I certainly from the Times, we didn't use the word flop or embarrassed because I think that would have been a mischaracterization. And one of the things I wrote was it wasn't the fact that England lost that game that was the issue, because Argentina are a team now that the casual rugby fan might still characterise as a lesser nation, but like you say, they've beaten the All Blacks away, and they've beaten Australia, and they beat Scotland in the summer. They are a team who Michael Cheika has had an immediate impact in, and that makes them dangerous. So it wasn't for me so much losing by a point. It was the manner in which England played, which I think fell below. I think that the reporting of it was accurate because it fell below the standards that we know that England team can deliver, and actually that was then backed up by what the players and what Eddie Jones said subsequently. I think the other element to it is context. So a one-off defeat by a point in the first game of an autumn campaign when England are clearly rusty and below par and low on energy isn't a disaster. But if it's in the course of a year when England that put England at 5 defeats from 9 tests. So I understand what you're saying, that there's a sense sometimes there's a knee-jerk reaction, but from my perspective, it's more about the context and what do they deliver versus what do they want to deliver and what they are capable of delivering. And I would try and cover it in that kind of balance, in the same way as when they put 7 tries past Japan. Does that turn them into world beaters immediately? No, it doesn't. But was it a step in the right direction? Did we see things in the Japan game that had been missing in the Argentina game that they wanted to turn around? Yes, we did. There was way higher intensity, better attacking intent. Could they be sharper? Of course they could. But putting 7 tries past a poor Japan team, and that was one of the big disappointments. Actually, they didn't really deliver in the way that we hoped they would. So I'm conscious of not swinging from one extreme to the other, but it's about trying to present England where they are now and also where they want to get to.
Do you find, as a journalist, Eddie fantastic value or frustrating?
Both.
Do you quite enjoy Pennyhill Park, Eddie Jones press conferences, the opportunity it affords? And I ask that relatively because you and I have been doing, relatively in around the game for a long old time. And actually, if you go back to the previous regime, you couldn't really find two diametrically opposed people.
I find him a fascinating character.
Yeah.
Right? He's a fascinating character. And often outside of a test week, I find him more interesting because that's when he hasn't got the pressure of a game on a Saturday. He's not trying to get messages out either to his players or to the opposition or to the referee. I find you can have a really interesting conversation about the state of the game. Once you're into test week, you're aware that he's in match mode from pretty much from the press conference at the end after the previous game. And so you're trying to understand what is he trying to do this week for his team, and what tone is he trying to set this week, so that you understand what it is that he's saying, and therefore you can try and contextualize what his messaging is. He's great because he's so colourful in his language. He's so experienced. He's got so many fascinating points of reference, both within rugby and other sports, that he can convey a message in a way that is interesting and appealing and will sit on the back page of the Times or any newspaper and engage the readers. They might get frustrated by it. They might think he's deflecting attention away from the subject, but he's never dull.
Yeah.
So in that sense, he's great. In a test week, I'm always trying to understand what is he trying to achieve by saying what he's saying, but that's fascinating in itself because that is part of his coaching, and he will always, he will take advice post match, so that by the time he's spoken on Amazon or come spoken to the papers, he's got an idea of what message he wants to get out there. And sometimes it changes between when he talks to you guys on television versus maybe 20, 25 minutes when he comes to see the newspapers. He's decided to shift. He's got a different message.
We did that the weekend, didn't he? He went from saying Marcus and Owen will stick, and that was on television, and then to you guys it was like, well, we'll see.
Yeah, but I'm sure he'll stick.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll stick because everything's built around those two now. I mean, famous last words.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Course, but,
Owen starts at 10 against
who
the All Blacks.
Well, and that's one of the other fascinating things about him is he's hard to second guess. We all think we know what he's going to do, but he's got a plan in place that might involve a pretty hard tack at one point and a shift in direction to catch out other teams as much as to keep his own players on edge and uncertain. So yeah, he can be both frustrating because often you want to get to the nub of something and he'll just decide that's not where he wants to go this week, so he won't engage.
Yeah.
But so much around him and his experience and the knowledge he has and his touch points are really interesting.
I'm going to try something. Will you indulge me? So you've obviously spoken about the way that your role is about matching up what England are doing to what they could and should be doing. And I just want to extrapolate that again into sort of what England could and should be doing relative to what everyone else is doing. Okay, so bear with me.
All
These are results solely from 2022. And I found myself yesterday watching the Scotland-New Zealand game, beginning to think, Christ, is Scotland going to beat the All Blacks for the first time ever, which is what set this in chain. And then, of course, they didn't. And so slightly spoiled it, but I went with it anyway. So these are results from 2022 only. And I'm going to start bizarrely with Georgia, who beat Italy for the very first time in the summer. Italy beat Australia for the very first time in November. Australia beat Argentina after Argentina had won in New Zealand for the very first time ever. New Zealand beat Australia, perhaps fortunate to do so, and Australia were also unlucky to lose to France in Paris, which is where Les Bleus beat England to win a Grand Slam. Bear with me. England had already beaten Wales, who'd beaten the Scotland side, who'd beaten England. In the summer, Scotland beat Argentina, who then went on to beat Australia. Australia then beat South Africa after the Box had beaten New Zealand, who themselves had beaten Ireland. Ireland had beaten England at Twickenham after England bettered Italy in Rome. The Azzurri then beat Wales in Cardiff, the same venue that Wales then beat Argentina in November, a week after the Pumas had beaten England at Twickenham. A week later, England put 50 on Japan, who in the summer were beaten by only 5 by France, who then beat Ireland by 6 in the Six Nations. In November, both France and Ireland beat South Africa, who beat Wales and lost to Wales in the summer, and then beat Argentina, who'd beaten Scotland in June after the Scots had beaten Italy, who then beat Samoa in November, and a week later, Samoa beat Georgia. So I'm not sure that makes any sense to anyone but me, but go with me on the fact that at the moment, I don't think we've ever seen an international rugby landscape like the one we've got right now. Can you help me understand why we are seeing essentially chaos in terms of form, results? I mean, it's just all over the place.
It is all over the place. And I'll start by referring to something that Eddie Jones said last week, which is that he believes that the lockdown period has knocked on every team's development to the point that everyone's now at different states trying to work out who they are and where they fit and how they're going to play, and that you won't really understand where everyone really sits till the World Cup.
Yeah.
So he said that last week, just next door. A lot of the reactions to that was, well, of course he's going to say that because England have just lost to Argentina, which is going back to your previous question. How do you sort of separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit? How do you understand what the intention is behind the comments? But why is it everyone's beating everyone? I could say from an England perspective that they still haven't worked out who they are and how they want to play. They haven't got on top of that.
But when you go back to that nonsense, who has worked out who they are? Ireland and France.
Ireland and France, yeah. That's probably at the moment.
That's probably at the moment.
I think New Zealand.
And yet, France beat Australia by 1
Yeah.
and score late to beat South Africa.
so
So we
Australia-
could be in a totally different situation with the roll of the dice.
So New Zealand lose at home to an Ireland team who know what they're about. Probably the most cohesive top nation out there because they're all based around Leinster and they spend a lot of time together and they've been together for a long time. They go to New Zealand and come from 1-0 down to win at a time when New Zealand were really struggling to work out how to play and who they were. They've pulled together 6 wins in a row since the end of the Rugby Championship, winning the Rugby Championship, having dipped to the lowest point in the world rankings. But not all of those wins have been all that convincing. Australia are a team who have got a great performance in them, but also a dire performance in them. And we've seen both of those, I think, in the last 2 weeks, that they were edged out in Paris and then they were on the wrong side of it in Italy, who a couple of years ago beat South Africa in Italy, and that sort of triggered the Box rise to winning the World Cup, really. That was the nadir for that South Africa team. I'm not really giving you a clear answer, but I think that might be the answer, that we're at a point in the World Cup cycle where there is chaos around, and it's really who can grab the opportunity to use this period of uncertainty to take a leap on ahead of everyone else.
So the final thing I just want to quickly ask you about is Rugby World Cup next year. So I've got a growing theory that you don't want to arrive at Rugby World Cup necessarily with all your, let's say as the form team. And I think you're seeing that more and more. So Red Roses would be the latest example at Rugby World Cup 2021 down in Aotearoa. You look at almost England at the T20, where they arrived and sort of a little bit all over the place, but found that sort of momentum, the growth during the tournament. You could probably say the same about South Africa, even going back to 2019, which is they lost to the All Blacks and then just began to find their mojo, clarified their thought. Do you subscribe to this theory of Eddie Jones, which is you actually do want to hold stuff back? There is a lot to be done behind closed doors, but you don't want to show too much until the tournament begins? That's the first question.
I think it's dangerous to try and bring a rugby public with you and hang everything on the World Cup.
Okay.
I understand the need to build, and you might chuck in a play against New Zealand next week, which is half the play you're going to end up using at the World Cup, or you'll sort of sow the seeds on Saturday, knowing that you're going to tweak it 2 or 3 times between now and the World Cup. I get that. I think if you take the Red Roses as a really good example, they lost that final right at the end, but they have a body of work behind them which shows that they've got something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they lost the one game that they wanted to win. They've got a world record 30 consecutive victories behind them. Where the England men's team, I think, tread a dangerous line is that there's so much talk about wait till the World Cup, that if you get a red card 20 minutes in to a semi-final or a final and it doesn't go your way and you lose on that one day, what else have you achieved along the way? What else have you got in the trophy cabinet? What else? What's your body of work? And if everything is about focusing on one day, it's a high-risk strategy.
Do you think the World Cup next year, when we're talking about the results we're seeing, but also the incidents that we're seeing within rugby now, so the Peter Steph du Toit read on Saturday, some would say he was pushed and fell in, others would say it was a deliberate act of foul play. You look at the Lydia Thompson red card in the World Cup final, you look at even going back to the New Zealand-Japan game, and Brady Retallick gets sent off. Reds everywhere, you've got yellows everywhere, you've got weather conditions, you've got just so much nuance in the game, referee interpretations. Is France 2023 just sort of going to be utter chaos?
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. The World Rugby tried this 2019, just before the World Cup. They brought in this referee, this high tackle framework, which led to more yellow cards and red cards than we'd seen before, led to more bans. That framework is now slightly more nuanced, but I think the level for what is a yellow and a red has dropped as well. So I think we're going to see games massively affected by yellow cards, red cards, and HIAs, which they're also really important, but they are all a disruptive influence on the game. Again, Eddie Jones uses the word volatile, and I think he's right, that the landscape is unpredictable, because at the moment you've got teams who can all beat each other, which from a spectator's point of view and a rugby lover's point of view is brilliant. But the actual match itself is volatile, because you can be like the Red Roses were. You can be 14-0 up, whatever they were, on top, and you think they're going to steamroller this game. This is theirs for the taking. A red card, and it changes the course of the match. Now, we'll have been in New Zealand on Lions tours when Sonny Bill gets sent off, and the All Blacks hold out, but the Lions win it, and the series turns on it. But back then, that was a very rare occurrence. Happens all the time now, and so the importance of teams being able to play with 14, 13, adapt if they lose their captain, adapt if their strike runner in midfield is off for an HIA is going to be massive, and squad depth then becomes really important because the concussion protocols now are 12 days, and in a World Cup, most teams have got one long period between pool matches. But basically, if you get a concussion, you're almost certainly going to miss the next game. So that throws in a whole nother level of uncertainty. So I think it's a World Cup where it will be chaotic and unpredictable and uncertain, and that makes it all the more special in a way for the spectator, and much more of a nightmare, I imagine, for a coach. Because as a coach, you want a plan, and you want the players to know what they need to do.
Last question, but this is so interesting. We could talk to you about so many different things. Who is the biggest star in this England team right now, from a journalistic clicks on newspaper links right now? Genge?
I think Genge has got. Judging by the reaction to my last interview with him, I was uncertain whether readers would enjoy him or dislike him, and I mean, it was a uniform. What a guy!
Yeah,
this is the kind of guy we want in this England team. I want him to be. I want to play in his team every week.
Yeah,
great character, depth to him. There's a hinterland to him that's fascinating. So, and I would say that being a very poor front row player myself, I want to big up the props, but
not from Nowell West.
Not from Nowell West, no. But I'd say out there, I saw Marcus Smith did a GQ interview. Marrow is probably the closest to being recognised outside of a rugby context.
Yeah.
Owen Farrell is the linchpin of the team, but doesn't want it, never embraced it.
You think back to the days of Delalio, who was very engaging as captain. Johnson wasn't. So you don't necessarily need to be one or the other. I'm just interested in your view on if England are trying to grow the team and the support base and the interest outside of what happens on 3:00 on a Saturday, whether you need a skipper who.
I think it helps. I think it helps the brand of the England team and the RFU, and I think it helps Owen actually. He always strikes me as being so uncomfortable,
and yet he's so comfortable within the environment.
Yeah.
He is lauded within, and yet we know very little outside.
I think he's comfortable in that environment. I was actually doing an interview with Joe Marler this morning because it's Owen's 100th cap on Saturday for England, and there's a few players have said, Jamie George thinks he's quite shy, would know him better than almost anyone.
Yeah,
and Joe's point was he's just so comfortable in the rugby environment on the pitch.
Yeah,
that's where he feels at home.
Yeah,
and that in all the rest of it has takes some time.
Yeah,
he's just not. It's just not him. Joe's point actually was that in the last couple of years, Owen's had a kid, he's married, he's more. It's easier now for people to connect with him than it was before, which was an interesting observation because he's so focused on winning and performance that it can be difficult for the wider public to understand that mentality because he's so unique. I mean, he's such a rare mindset.
I think two things with Owen. One is, and it's actually the same with Owen and Eddie, which is I think we will all really miss them when they're no longer part of it. And I think you as journalists, Definitely. Sometimes Eddie gives you so much. And I think Owen, just as a talisman for this team, is unparalleled. And I think England fans will really miss him when he's not there. The other thing I wonder, and I can't see it, but I do wonder, is whether he would ever do poacher turned gamekeeper in the way that someone like Mike Atherton did, who was famously off with the media and has gone on to be one of the greatest broadcasters of cricket that there is, full stop. I think Owen will inevitably go down the coaching route, so I don't think we will. Yeah. But it would be quite an interesting story to see if suddenly he gets a flashy suit, a snazzy haircut, and starts playing with video printers and
I'd be amazed. I mean, there are players. Dylan is obviously he's working for Amazon this this autumn. And when he was captain, he felt like he actually withdrew really from engaging.
He's spoken a lot about
that. He has, yeah. He was. It took everything in him to be captain of this place and bring the team with him. But recently retired can give really interesting analysis on the modern game, because it's only been a year or two since he was strapping up his shoulders and his knees and putting his boots on. I don't think Owen will go down that route at all. I can see him staying at Saracens, working as a kicking coach probably initially, but pretty soon being defence coach and then head coach, I imagine.
Good with a clipboard. Who wins this weekend? They've got to be there for the taking. I thought it was really interesting post-match in Murrayfield where Sam Whitelock said, it's never easy getting wins in this part of the world, so we'll take any victory we can get.
Yeah.
And I thought...
No. That's...
But I just wonder whether that actually is where New Zealand are right now.
I think it's fascinating. I will give you an answer in a minute. I've worked it out in my head, but I can see both teams have been preparing for this game.
Yeah.
The way that the New Zealand team selections against Scotland and Japan versus the Wales game that was in the middle of it, I can see them. This is the scout that they want. England can beat them. They are there for the taking. Eddie said that on Saturday night, and I agree with him. They're not the vintage All Blacks of 2005 or 2015 that won the World Cup at Twickenham. If England can get it right, then they can beat them. What we're not sure about is how close they are to getting it right. Because I think the mindset was right against Japan, but the execution at times was great, and Freddie Stewart brilliant. But some of the attack was scruffy and a little bit too telegraphed. But again, it comes back to what games are being played here.
So that's a long-winded
way of saying
crossing your legs on the fence, and the answer is
England.
Really?
Yeah, but not with great confidence, because 20 minutes of conversation sums it up.
Yeah.
It's about as balanced as
red card
as it has been. Yeah.
With rain, suddenly all bets are off.
Yeah. I mean, England have the capacity to win if they get it right.
Yeah.
But so do the All Blacks, and it'll turn on something. It'll turn on an HIA to, I don't know, Richie Mo'unga or a yellow card to Maro Itoje, and suddenly that 10 minutes can turn the game.
I really hope for your sake and for our sake and for the players' sake, we are talking about a game that gives us all the right things that we turn up and tune in to watch. I'm not sure we're getting as many of those as we used to, but maybe that's the fun of the fair. Very, very interesting. We shall watch and wait and analyse what your headline is on Monday.
I don't write the
headlines.
headlines.
If you don't write the headlines.
I have to keep,
Do you find that quite frustrating?
Occasionally.
Why are you not accountable for your headlines?
Well, I'm accountable because it's my newspaper and my words are underneath it.
But all journalists...
But interestingly, I don't write... it's not my...
I find that really odd. There's a disconnect between... You write the piece, you write the leader.
I write the piece, the desk design the page, and try and sum up the story in a headline. And now and again, it actually doesn't really happen with...
Not with you.
With the
Not
Times,
with you very often, no, for sure. But there are others where it does.
Yeah. But it's a different... Everyone's got their own role in the organisation. But I've had a set two with Eddie over it once when he had to go at a headline, which I think was representative of what he said, but he disagreed. And I said, well, A, I wasn't actually at Pennyhill. I didn't write the piece.
Yeah.
And B, I certainly didn't write the headline. And he said, well, aren't you accountable for the headline? I was like, well, I am, but I didn't realise that you were so upset.
Right.
So, that was very early in his days. Very early on.
We've both come a long way.
He was laying down a bit of a marker.
Yeah, we've both had a bit of that at the time. Very nice to chat. Good on you, Alex. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll watch with interest and catch up soon. You might have noticed, the eagle-eyed amongst you, that we haven't done our Doughballer of the week this week, and that's because we are passing the honour over to the great Elmer off the back of an extraordinary final. Heartbreak, as we said earlier, for the Red Roses. But what an impact the ladies have had over the last few weeks or so, especially on the next generation. So here is the final The Good, the Scaz and the Rugby segment on this here programme. Elmer is joined by our very own Mo Hunt, who in many ways became something of the story ahead of the final, didn't she? Let's join the ladies for a debrief on an extraordinary final, but a heartbreaking day for those in white.
Welcome to the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby in partnership with Vodafone. It was a final for the ages. It was an exceptional match. I mean, we didn't think there was anything better than what New Zealand-France dished up in the semi-finals. And a bit like in 2019, where England played their game of the tournament in the semi-finals and then the final was a bit like one-way traffic, I was a little worried that the final wouldn't live up to the billing, but the fans were better than anyone could have anticipated. And the Black Ferns and the Red Roses managed to, I mean, they took it all the way to the wire. England with the line out on the 5, last play of the game, one line out on a driving maul, something that they are exceptionally good at, would have sealed the deal for them. We all thought they've got this. And then New Zealand just did what they do and broke English hearts. Lucky for us, the one and only Mo Hunt has emerged, and she is on the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby to process the game with us. Hi, Mo.
Hello, lovely to see you. Yeah, it's
lovely
crushing,
to
isn't
see
it?
you. Jeez, how do you
What a
feel?
start though, Alma. What a start.
Oh,
Oh, my heart just aches, like, for the girls, for everyone that's like been in the background, for everyone, because it's not just them, it's their families. Like, you think about the players on the pitch, right? But then there's all the girls that were there that didn't get the opportunity to take the field. Everyone else that's come before, because that's a 4-year build-up, 5-year build-up, 2017,
yeah.
5-year build-up, 5-year build-up to get to that point. And then like all the coaching staff, everyone else that's gone behind the scenes, and the journey from effectively 2014 to that point. So yeah, it's crushing. Like, the girls are absolutely heartbroken, as you can imagine. And we're all feeling it, to be honest. We're all feeling it. Like you are as well. I know you said that, yeah, you're not quite over it. And I think it will take a long time to process this one.
1.7 million people woke up and switched on their TVs and watched it on ITV at 6:30 on a dark, damp, cold Saturday morning. And all of them are probably feeling this way. But the 42,000 people in attendance at Eden Park, of which 41,950 were probably Black Ferns fans, I mean, they had the time of their actual life.
To be fair, I reckon not quite that many, because pretty much the whole of women's rugby that ever existed for me were out there. Like, all the girls, loads of the girls that have played in the tournament seemed to stay out, which is pretty cool. And there was quite a lot of travelling support. I know that a lot of friends and family went out for the England girls, especially. So yeah, I know that they probably didn't have everyone on their side, but it did seem like that on the telly. Like, fair play to them. Like, the atmosphere, I didn't think anything would quite beat France away. Like, that's probably the closest I've ever come to experiencing anything like that. And then I'm not even sure the crowds that we get there, probably like 20,000 if that, and to have 42,000 kind of screaming Black Ferns at you, and like, I love that sort of stuff. I live for it. But yeah, it is pretty daunting. It is quite intense environments to be in.
You know what I think, in talking to people about it today and yesterday, what I think a lot of people don't realise is no one in New Zealand has ever had to pay for a ticket to watch women's rugby. This is a whole country that have just paid to watch women's rugby for the first time. And like, so many of them pitched up and happily paid for a ticket and had the time of their life. So that was a beautiful moment. I also just loved seeing, you know, the England men and the Lionesses on ITV, wishing them good luck before the game. The way in which the coverage has been done. I know Scaz Rugby earlier in the week putting out a tweet saying he's really enjoyed everyone who's worked on the coverage, because you could tell everyone working on it was so invested, and you can hear the commentators really know their stuff. They've earned their stripes in women's rugby, and sometimes in the men's tournaments you have these kind of fair weather pundits who come in and then they don't even properly know the names of all the players at all levels of the game, you know, like smaller nations who don't play, you know, in the big tournaments sometimes get a bit disrespected, but everyone just lapped up every second of this tournament and celebrated every performance. Did you see the news about the shift in the lineup just before the game, and what was your response to that?
No, so I actually didn't. I've been a little bit under a rock, so I've been like not really following a lot of it. Like, obviously when the girls play, like, want them to win, like, with all of my heart. Like, there's no question about that. But yeah, I have been under a bit of a rock. So the first I saw was like I'm like turned on for kickoff's gone. And I was like, Loose is on. I was like, what's happened here? So then I've gone back and tried to check everything out. But credit where credit's due. I think Lucy did an absolutely like brilliant job. Like she did everything that was asked of her in terms of like playing game plan. Like obviously we've been focusing on that like the whole time through the summer, so I know what that is. And yeah, I thought she was decent. She was class. Like did everything she needed to do. So to go into that cauldron, 42,000. I think what did they say it was her fourth start for the Red Roses. So hats off to her. Like 22 years old, and she managed that pressure super well. So yeah, fair play.
Now, England looked so in control. I really had this really nice feeling where I was like, oh, okay, this is all right. I can do this. This isn't going to be a painful final to watch. Things are ticking over nicely. And then, boof, it's like the whole world shifted off its axis just a little bit. And Lydia got carded. I don't know Lydia. Tell me about the kind of person she is and how she would take something like this. What is she like as a player? Because my heart bled for her.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify. Like Lydia as a person, I'm not just saying this because we're on a podcast and it's being recorded and all that. She is one of the nicest people I've ever met. Like so humble, so down to earth, just the cutest, most thoughtful human. Would do anything for absolutely everyone. Like honestly, like cannot speak highly enough of the girl. And then you see, but she's also got this like edge of like humor that's like really quite like witty and like not cutting, but just like straight to the point. And like she's just brilliant, but you don't see it all the time. So then when she comes out with these one-liners, you're like, you're a legend. But yeah, just like absolutely top rate, like human being, like brilliant person to have around. And then like you put her rugby into it as well, and I don't think anyone has like given Portia Woodman fear like Lydia has. So obviously 2017, like that try where she comes like catches the ball in and out and away and just burns Portia Woodman down the wing. I think 2014 she goes in against Samoa. Unfortunately, she got injured in that tournament, so went home. But that try, like where you see it, we were in stripes, so I don't know if it made her look faster, but the video of her going past the borders, like she looks like unbelievably quick. Yeah, literally, she's like no other. Like her ability to stop and go again, and her attacking like now is just amazing. So to see that happen to her, like just crushed me, to be honest. Like not that you want to see it to happen to anyone, but like as a person and as like a human, she's just right at the top of anything. And to be honest, I'm not sure it changed the result. I'm not sure that, like, obviously it's harder. Like you have to work a lot harder when you've got 14 players, but I think it would have had a much bigger impact if it had been like a different position. No disrespect to wingers at all, but obviously like the backfield coverage, like you can kind of look after that a little bit more. You just have to work harder and be a bit more savvy with what you're doing. But yeah, like I just think the whole thing, like she'd have taken it really badly, like anyone would in that situation. And she's probably now under a rock just hiding and stuff. But yeah, just gutted for her. I just want to give her a hug, to be honest.
It's interesting that you say that you don't think it defined the game, because the uneducated sideline fan here at that stage when a player gets carded, and it happened in the men's game between South Africa and France on Saturday night as well, when a player gets a red card, tons of fans just switch their TV off. And the fact that you say, is that where your head goes as a player on the pitch when something like that happens? You go, this doesn't mean we're out of it?
Oh, 100%. Like you have to. And I think you practice situations like that, so there'll always be like a bit of scenario training. So if we lose this player, what happens here? That sort of stuff. Yeah, so like for me, you have to be able to switch off and actually go into, right, okay, this has happened, how do we deal with it? And like you're just drilled into that. Like there's no question about it. That's just what happens as a player, as a person. You're drilled into it, scenario based, and then you just go, okay, how do we fix it? And then your leaders, that's where your leaders step up and they're like, right, okay, backfield coverage will look like this if this happens. So obviously you saw that England dropped a player from the scrum. So obviously the scrum's a massive weapon for England. Potentially, maybe they'd have got more penalties in that area if they kept 8 in. So if Lids was still on the pitch, potentially that's something that might have happened. But you don't know. Like New Zealand's scrum was solid. Like they've clearly done a lot of homework there. They've revised that and been solid. And actually their backline is so threatening that you needed to put somebody out to be able to counter that. So Alex Matthews comes out. She's played so much sevens, which is an amazing facet to have. you know that you can't go around the girl. She's so quick. She's one of the best accelerators in the game. So yeah, like the way that they dealt with it and they handled it, I think was spot on. And you just drop somebody else in the backfield, whether your 9 drops a bit further or whether the 10 sits more. Yeah, so like I think as a whole, like England dealt with it very, very well. And it wasn't like they were being rinsed down the sideline every single time New Zealand carried. And I think if they were, we can sit here and say, yeah, that had a massive impact on the game, but actually that didn't happen. So like I just think we can't say that that's a defining moment, you know, like it's obviously made it a lot harder, but for me, it's not a defining moment.
Speaking of getting rinsed down the side, I said this at our viewing on Saturday morning at the watch party, and I'm going to say it again. The fact that there is now a rugby player, man or woman, that you can dress up as for Halloween. Ruby Tui understands how to reach out to people and captivate their imaginations in ways marketing execs who earn truckloads of money still can't quite fathom.
How she learned it, do you know? Like, where's this come from? Because I've known that girl for a few years and she's just seemed to come into her own, like, especially this tournament. I know she's written a book, like, just before, like, timing of that, exemplary, well played. And then, yeah, she's just smashed it, really. Like, and people love her and people want characters. They want somebody that, like, they want lovable people. They want lovable characters. And she's given them that in abundance. And I think fair play to her for it.
I think it's the generosity. That's exactly it. She's given it. She gave away her medal. Did you see that little girl, Lucia, who had leukemia? Her dad told Ruby, she told Ruby that she wants to be a black fern one day. And then Ruby started talking to her dad and said, Lucia has just recovered from leukemia. And then Ruby saw them again at the final after the game. And then she gave Lucia her medal. She gives so much of herself. She puts herself all the way out there in a way that is so compelling and irresistible that people just want to grab hold of her.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, it really is. And I think it's also so hard to do. And it's hard to do in a way that people think that they know what you're like and they can actually know you as a person. I think a lot of people kind of had a balance with it where people kind of think they know you or they get to know you a little bit, but with her, like you said, like everyone feels like they're living her life with her, and like it's just so nice. Like it's so heartwarming, and for her to have done something like that obviously is a massive gesture and one that will live on in that girl's life forever. But at the same time, like I think you flip that on the athlete side of it, and that just shows me how complete she is with what she's done. Like she's achieved what they aim to do. So she wanted to win a World Cup, obviously made the decisions. I don't know whether it was a decision for her or not, but it seemed like she stepped away from sevens before the Sevens World Cup to put herself in the mixer. She's gone. She's made it her own. Chip and chase winger game, like absolutely love to see it. And then that's obviously enough for her. And I think that for me is like a huge thing because as rugby players, you have all these keepsakes. You win these medals. You get the jerseys. You have the kit. You have the stash, and everyone lives for it. And you love the stash. And when you've got the stash, you want the medals and all of that sort of stuff. But for her to the journey and all of that to be enough for her, like she doesn't need that tangible bit at the end. Like that for me is the biggest thing, and I think that's so nice. Like I think that's brilliant because so many people will frame that shirt, or I've still got my boots from 2014. Do you know, like and like I don't need them. They're in like my rugby box at my mum's house, and it's lush, and I love it, and I love that I've still got them. But at the same time, like how much would it have meant for me to have given those away to somebody on that day? Do you know, like, and I think like that for me is just like you said, like so compelling and actually just so lush of her.
And I've never even thought about that, but I keep all of my accreditations from all of the games where I work, and it's just a lanyard. I mean, it's a lanyard and a tag with my photo and my name and my surname on it. It's nuts, but I keep all of those things, and I literally just had a moment where I was like, that's the stupidest thing to keep. It's not even a medal.
I don't think it is. I do exactly the same. So I have from like literally when I started playing in like 2010, I think was my first sevens tournament, something like that. I have got everything, and from media, from playing, like everything like that, and I love that, and that's something that I'm always going to do. I think that's slightly different, Amma. We can get away with that one, I think.
Well, there's no hope. There's no chance of me ever winning a Rugby World Cup medals. No dangers there. I'm not going to be clinging on to it like a raft. It's fine.
Yeah.
The other thing that was absolutely irresistible as a moment from that game was Stacey Falula going off injured and absolutely beaming I have never seen anyone look that happy and injured at the same time. Like she was leaving the field. It's not like they had a 22-point advantage and she was like, oh, well, job done. It was very much you're missing out on what could be the determining moment in this match. And you're still finding joy in the moment, which as a very competitive person, it's almost like they have a sort of awareness that you don't see often in other teams. Like they're so in touch with, I don't know, like the bigger picture or something. But then, as you say, the fact that Ruby has found a way to be that bigger personality in a team sport space that people feel they can hold on to, and can people read the authenticity in her behavior and go, we buy this, we're in with you, we love you. This is not an ostentatious show of like attention seeking. It's a generosity that we like really gravitate towards. Like, how do they manage to encourage that in a team sport that is known for keeping people small and under the parapet?
Yeah, they just do it differently out there. It seems, doesn't it? And I think also, like, excuse me, speaking to some of the girls as well as they've been out there, obviously the country's beautiful, the people are so humble, everyone's so lovely, and there just seems to be that all the way through.
I think the thing that absolutely broke my heart and made me so very happy at the end of that Ruby Tui interview, post-match interview, where she grabs the mic and she starts singing. I have no idea what she was singing, but I absolutely loved it and I could feel it. When they cut to the little girl, where there were two girls with Stacey Falula hoodies, and then there was a girl in the crowd holding Ruby's book up like this, that just made me dissolve into a fit of tears, because that just, to me, felt like that's the point. This is like, that's it.
Yeah.
It's done. It's been achieved.
Well, what did you say? 1.7 million. Like that's incredible. 42,000, like you said, paying to go and watch women's rugby. And it's just how they come like off the back of it now. So New Zealand need to get games at home in the very near future against competitive people and good fixtures to captivate this audience now, because they've done their job. Like everyone's now hooked. Like they love the story. They're living, breathing it with them. Like now you need to get on the back of it. So when are your next tests? Like be advertising them already. Get it out there. Like get the girls out to schools. I'm sure they will be, but just do as much as you can, as much media as you can, get these girls as household names and live off the back of it. The same thing here, like 1.7 million, like it stood up, women's rugby has stood up, and what you want is competitive fixtures. Like you never want it, like as much as it's been amazing, that 30 winning streak, like you want games that are captivating and that go right to the wire, and you couldn't have asked for any more in that final. Like literally the last throw of the game, it just had everyone hooked, and that's all you can ask for as a neutral. As an England player.
I was going to say, what neutral? Who's neutral?
Yeah, exactly.
Here? You?
Yeah. No,
me?
not me. Absolutely not me. But like, as a neutral, like you just can't quantify it, you know? Like I just wanted to be in that dressing room with the girls and getting around them more, like giving Sunter a hug, like her post-match speech. Like I actually had to turn it off after that because it broke me, like genuinely just broke me. But nothing you can do about it, I guess. So
yeah, her grace was just heartbreaking. Ruby Tui said in 2010, nobody knew who the Black Ferns were. We were told we'd never be paid. We were told we'd never play at Eden Park. We were told women's rugby did not matter. And now here we are, 12 years later. Eden Park sold out, bro. It's a really, really special moment. She says, Kiwis are normally so laid back. We're lying down, but we finally got up. And I love that. What I love even more is the letter. Did you see the letter Frankie Harvey wrote? A letter to the Red Roses. I know you're hurt right now and are struggling to see the light, but please don't forget all the good you've done for the sport that we all love. You didn't win the final, but there's a little girl somewhere in the UK that watched her first game of rugby during this World Cup and has decided she wants to give it a try. That's a win. There's a teenager somewhere in the UK that stopped playing rugby because she couldn't find a team, but after watching the World Cup, she's determined to give it another go. That's a win. There's a mum somewhere in the UK that stopped playing to have children, but has dusted off her boots and gone back to trading because she feels inspired by you. That's a win. There's a rugby club somewhere in the UK that has realized how incredible women's rugby is and is going to start up their own girls and women's sections. That is a win. There are thousands of people all over the UK that are proud of the Red Roses and know that women's rugby is in a far superior place now than it was a few weeks ago because of everything you have done. That's a massive win. Although I know this won't fix your broken hearts, just know there's an army of people here waiting to pick you up, to dust you off, and to help you get back to doing what you do best, being awesome. I'm so proud of you all. Love, Frankie Harvey.
I can't even speak. Frankie Harvey got me. So I don't know how the girls
my
are when they read that. No, honestly, like it's so hard because I'm gonna get emotional now. Like you build up your whole life for this moment, and you're like, it's everything to you. Do you know what I mean? Like it's literally everything. Like you sacrifice so much. I don't call it sacrifice because it's a choice. Like for me, everything about what you do is a choice. Yeah, although the result hasn't gone the way, like, obviously easier for me to say when I'm not there. But like that reflection piece of actually like you want to inspire other people to do this because it's amazing, and it's like a feeling you can't quantify, you can't explain when you're in that changing room with the girls. So like for that to have had an impact on other people is huge, and it is everything, and it's what you do it for. Like making your family, making your friends proud. Like there's nobody out there that isn't proud of the girls right now. Like they have been amazing. They have been unbelievable. Like all of them, like every single one of them, the staff, everyone has put so much into it, and I can't speak highly enough of any of them. Like they're all just incredible, and I just hope that they take some kind of warmth in that. Like, and I know that everyone's reached out, and there's been so much on socials about like how proud everyone is, but it's hard to see that at the minute. And I just hope that in time, like the girls can see it and they do take warmth in that because it is so important.
And I mean, you see it every day. You're involved in a club, you're coaching, you see the development and the growth in very real terms.
It's mad. Like our program's doubled in size in a year. So I've been like looking after it, for 18 months. Like this year, we've got over 84 girls, I think, are on my list. Yeah, it's crazy. Imagine trying to manage that. Like, it's blown my mind. Like, honestly, it's blown my mind. But yeah, you see it daily, and just not only that, but the quality of the player coming through. Like the girls, because they've been playing for longer now. Like as they're coming through, they're more aware. Like that it's more accessible. So like just the rugby knowledge of the girls coming through at the minute as well is so in advance of when we were that age, in my opinion. So yeah, we're in a good place. We're in a really, really good place. And a lot of that is down to what the girls have done and how they've gone about it and how accessible they make themselves and how much time they put back and all of that sort of stuff.
Now, this is the Scaz in the rugby. We haven't mentioned Scaz much, but she has been the top point scorer of the tournament. And so, yay!
Yeah, big rap,
Scazzy.
Come on, Scazida.
Most conversions. She's also joined top there with Caroline Drouin. Most tries scored, Portia. The Portia machine, geez, she tops many of the stats. Friend, like this woman's name is all over this list. Most clean breaks, Portia Woodman. Most tackles, Alex Callender. Love that for her. Most runs, Sophie de Goody, the Canadian machine. Oh my gosh.
Unreal. I remember like messaging her a couple of years ago being like, oh, like, what are your thoughts? Like, fancy a little bit of Gloucester Hartbury, like that sort of thing. Because I was just like, please come and play with us. Like, you're insane. But yeah, no, she's amazing, unbelievable athlete.
Oh my gosh, love that. Most offloads, Ruahe Demand. Give us your player of the tournament.
Oh, that's a hard one. I think Alex Matthews has to be up there. To be honest, I think she's been. I'm going to stick with my girls. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I just think that she's been unbelievable. Like gone about her work, done everything that's needed, been an absolute menace in attack, been devastating in defence. And just somebody you can look to, and every time she carries will have 4 people hanging off her no matter what she does. And sometimes if she's got 4 people that are looking like they're going to hit her, she'll just have the slightest of hands and hit somebody else. Lovely offloading ability. So yeah, like for me, I'm going to go with Big Al. Who's yours been?
So my personal favourite player of the tournament is just this isn't player of the tournament, this is just the person that everyone has discovered this tournament. Aseza Hele.
She will be playing in the Prem 15s in the next year, 2 years. If coaches have not already snapped her up, then like we got no room in our back row. Otherwise, I'd have been on the phone to Linny and been like, "Who is this girl?" Like that, I have no doubt.
I checked with someone I know, and as of last week, she was not snapped up. So if there are any Prem 15s coaches listening, I'm just saying.
I'd rather that she didn't have to play. Don't want to tackle her. She was unbelievable. I agree. Like credit where credit's due.
Yeah, she's my find of the tournament. Our Domino's Doughballer of the week, though. Can you see my Domino's in the background?
Love it.
We need to say thank you to our favorite pizza makers, Domino's. It's time to announce our Doughballer of the week, where we pick out our standout performers from this weekend. Alex submitted his Doughballer of the week earlier on. He let me know that we'd have the honor of making the selection, but he did say that he has to mention the Italians. So Ange Capuzzo, real fiery performance from the Azzurri. If you're looking for some fiery Italian action for yourself, check out Domino's new Ultimate Spicy Sausage Pizza and Nduja dough balls. Mo, who is your Doughballer of the week? They get a £50 Domino's voucher to enjoy.
I'm going to go Scaz so I can shout. No, I'm joking.
Predictable, Mo.
Yeah, I know, innit? Joking. This is an England girl, yeah? I'm picking one of the England girls.
Well, I mean, anyway. it would be true to form if you picked an England girl.
It's gonna have to be. I'm backing them. I'm backing them all the way. So for me, I think somebody that has been class. I think she has kind of come in, like taken her opportunity with obviously Lark Davis being out injured for a long period of time for the tournament, who's been a solid starter for the Red Roses for a long time now, and rightly so, like absolutely nails all the basics. But I think Amy's just grown into the tournament more and more. Amy Cocaine obviously scored a hat trick. I don't know if anyone knows the backstory, but she actually was born out in New Zealand. Pretty sure she was born there or moved there very early. So had the opportunity to play New Zealand or England. Luckily we snapped her up, and just an unbelievable like player. Like you'd go to war with her every day of the week. Just brilliant. And I think that she's had not just a brilliant game at the weekend, not just because she gets on the end of those driving balls and scores a hat trick, but just everything about what her game, like the line outs, what she did in and around the field in defence and attack. I think for me, she's somebody that I'd have to give Doughballer. And I'm sure she likes a bit of pizza as well. So, Ames, you're welcome.
Are you generalising about the forwards again?
Nah, no, just no Amy Cocaine. Yeah.
Do you know why she deserves it? Because in that rain-soaked torrential downpour they played in, was it the quarterfinal?
Yeah.
100% success rate on the line out there.
Yeah. Just like, and they work so hard, not just her, like you've obviously seen Connie Powell, Lark Davis and her like going at it, like especially in the barn down at Pennyhill, there's the little I don't even know what they're called, like bins, I guess, like up in the air, and they're just firing them like time after time after time. Like, yeah, it's very, very impressive. And to hit a close goal like that as much as they do, just fair play to them.
Brilliant. We love to see it. Our Doughballer of the week. Sending some Domino's vouchers your way, Amy Cocaine. So what's next? The England girls, they come home, they get to see family, get to unpack, get to do some laundry. Scazleg's back at home in her garden. And then the Allianz Prem 15 season. Still backing Gloucester Hartbury for a final against Loughborough Lightning?
Maybe not Loughborough, just because she's not here and I don't have to say it. Yeah. No, it'll be really interesting, you know, like, and I think how teams manage these next 3-4 weeks is going to be very, very interesting, because you're not going to have all of your superstars back. So everyone that was out of the World Cup, especially the England girls, you won't see them featuring this weekend. A lot of them anyway. So yeah, how the teams manage their squads, how they manage these next 3-4 weeks is going to be huge, because we all know that the last few years, the top four have come down to 2, 3, 4 points from like 4 to 8. It was last year, I think it was 3 or 4 points. So yeah, it's going to be hugely important. Like obviously pressure's on to go out and do a job, but I'm so excited to see it back. Like obviously the cup's been going on, but it's just another league. Like there's another level when it comes to the league, and you can already feel it. So we got back from training earlier and you can just feel the spice around the place. So very excited.
You guys got your Welsh contingent back a little earlier, so that's great to have them back at base.
Honestly, like, and so first training session with them. We've seen a couple girls, like they've just been in the gym doing a bit of rehab, but yeah, first training session with them today, and the level that they've brought back in is just class. And they're all great humans. The thing about here is they're just amazing people. So seeing them, it just makes you super happy. It just lifts everyone around you. And obviously we've got the added bonus of a few like amazing signings as well. And I think I've had a big shift in like what is important to me and my enjoyment, and actually like going out playing with my mates and throwing the ball around and doing what I love is like what's important to me. And while I'm still loving it, while I'm enjoying it, and while I feel like I'm in like fit enough to do it, I kind of feel like I'm in my prime a little bit. So I'm going to keep playing as long as I can, because as soon as you stop, there's no going back. So yeah, watch this space. We'll see.
Amazing. I love to see it. I love to be here for it. I love that the game-changing moment has arrived. This is not the end of anything. This is the start. Like, we're going up, and we're going up in a big way. And we've got record TV audiences and record in-person attendances and stadiums and watch parties all over the place. And I mean, it's a bit like how Gabby Logan said at the end of the Euros in the summer, the Red Roses have done us proud here. Now it's down to the rest of us to keep up this momentum that they have started, that you have started and been part of, and are busy building literally every single day. Don't think that it's all over now. It's really only just begun.
Yeah, it really has. Like, BBC have got 2 games each round. So there's a game on a Saturday, there's a game on a Sunday that's accessible like through the iPlayer and stuff like that. And go and watch them. Like, go watch them live, because you miss stuff on TV. Like, you miss all of the detail of where the players are going, like the chat that's happening off the ball, like how people are moving, all of that sort of thing. And the thing about the women's game as well is it's still very accessible. So the girls will spend hours, like maybe not hours, but they'll spend a long time after the game, like just around the boardings, meeting fans, signing autographs, taking photos, taking selfies, sometimes even taking B-reels if it goes off at the right time. So yeah, like get yourself involved with it, like carry on this momentum, because it is a sport for everyone. It's kind of like men's rugby back in the day, where we didn't kick as much and the ball's in play a little bit longer. So if you enjoyed that, and if you enjoyed that more than what's going on at the minute, come and watch women's rugby. You're welcome.
You are more than welcome. We've been the Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Mo, for coming back. It's been so lovely to see you and just chat to you and catch up. And we hope you have enjoyed our little whistle stop of what's been going on in New Zealand each week. The Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby is over and out for this tournament. We've loved going out there and talking to fans. We've loved every one of your comments, posts, engaged, every little bit that you've done to chat to us on the socials. We've loved going down to Henley Rugby Club for our watch party and meeting and hanging out with friends and family members, and all of the new ones coming in particular. I think most of all, what has been phenomenal is being able to tell the stories of the players, both past and present, who've made this game and this community what it is. So if you've enjoyed it, don't be a stranger. Once the Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby returns from NZ, we'll be up and running again. And don't worry, Alex will remind you in case you forget.
Good stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Elma and Mo. And here's to a very exciting next chapter for the Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby when the dust has settled for our girl, Emily. We are very excited about what is to come in the women's game and with those three moving forwards. And we'll be back in a few weeks on the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby to remind you when the Good, the Scaz, and the Rugby is resurrecting. So make sure, if you're not already, that you go and follow those socials. Spread the word wherever you can for boom time in the women's game. We have been the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby this week. Thank you to Jack. Thank you to Alex. Thank you to the girls as well. We will see you next week, where we will debrief on England against the All Blacks. We'll look ahead to England against the world champions. The show is produced by Shara Kilgallen and Ollie Hunter, and the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby is a folding pocket production. Enjoy your rugby on Amazon Prime Video, wherever you're watching it this weekend. Bye for now.